it's always even extra cool. It's like icing on the cake when someone pulls out a deep cut. It's like some little obscure video game I did in 2004, or it's like, oh yeah, that was me. Sometimes I have that first world problem of having been in so many things I can't remember all of it. And when people are asking me to put a quote of a character when I'm signing an autograph, it's like, did you have something in mind? I don't remember what I said. I don't get, 9 times out of 10, I haven't actually seen the thing or played the game that I'm a part of. There's just not enough hours in the day.
The answer lies in the heart of battle. And Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. This is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter. Hadouken!
Right. Aloha and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast for entertainment, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova, joined once again by the legendary icon, the one and only Kyle Hebert. How's it going?
What's up? What's up? It's good to be back. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing good. We've finally gotten to a super hot time for the summer here. So it's you wake up and that heat and humidity hits you and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna just lay right back down. That's how bad it is right now.
Yeah, it's hot here in Los Angeles too, and I just got back from San Antonio where it's even hotter. And it's the dry heat here on the West Coast, but the humidity, oh man. And I grew up in Dallas and I remember all that. And when I was there earlier this year for KawaiiCon, it's like, oh, this heat, how do you guys deal with it? It's beautiful here, but I'm very hot natured. I like my fans on high, my AC cranked, and
right,
gotta be comfortable.
Right, you have to be. So speaking of which, yes, you were here a couple months ago here in Hawaii for KawaiiCon, and let's talk about it, man. How was your experience with that? How did you enjoy it?
It was every bit as awesome as I heard it would be for years. I've come to smaller events in Hawaii, but this was my first KawaiiCon. And the staff were amazing. The fans were amazing. And I had heard that actually that event had a huge uptick in attendance this time, more so than their regular Comic-Con event, which is wacky because usually I would think the Comic-Con events draw a bigger crowd. But this anime thing, maybe it's catching on.
I mean, it was actually like I've seen KawaiiCon events like this is actually, to be honest, my first time going to a KawaiiCon. And I've driven by it before when other years, and it's usually busy. You'll see the lines wrap around, but to the extent it was this year, it was like you had to wrap around lines, and then the lines had another wrap around, and then another, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, all right. He was like, yeah, we're gonna go see all of our voice actor friends. We're gonna go see everyone. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was walking over with some handlers and things and to the venue, and seeing those long lines, man. It's like, wow, that's a thing. Mm.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it was great getting that, because it's, I think about this and I'm like, it's been, I want to say 5 or 6 years since I first had you on the podcast, but this was the first time we actually got to meet in person.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
finally,
I know, and I was like, I knew you were tall, but I was like, man, you towered over me.
I'm 6'3". I got to work on my posture though. So, but yeah, no, I have been my height ever since middle school. I had this huge growth spurt. I was taller than both my parents, and the real perk to being tall, and you're in high school or middle school, no one picks on you. I mean, because everyone's like shorter, so they're like. And I'm the shy introvert, keeps to himself kind of guy. So maybe I had a weird stoic face. It's like, don't mess with him. And it's like, meanwhile, I'm like, I'm just observing everything. Don't mind me.
Oh man. So how much did you get to do outside of Kawaii-Con while you were out here in Hawaii?
Usually it's par for the course. When I go to a town for an event, I go from the airport to the hotel, to the venue, back to the hotel, to the hotel, back to the venue, to the airport. Usually in and out. I stay one extra day, and my con agent and some friends and staffers, they were actually staying at the Disney resort, and I just took an Uber out there and we just chilled, and it was so beautiful there and so amazing and relaxing. And that's all honestly that I did. I have toured the island before. Some of the staffers from the smaller events of years past would just kind of just take me in their car. It's like, let's go all the way around and we'll stop and do the photo ops. And like, here's the waves, here's the beach, here's the thing that looks like an Amazon rainforest. Let's go see Pearl Harbor. Let's go. It's like, and there's the plantation where they do all the Dole farms stuff. It's like, oh, the greatest pineapples in the world. Yes. Hello.
What about food spots? Did you get to? I know I had some suggestions for you, but I didn't know if you had time to check out any of it.
I don't remember, because actually a couple nights at the con, we went out with other guests like Todd Habercorn and his wife actually suggested a place, and it was great. And I totally forgot the name of it, but it was fabulous. It was very busy too. It took a while to get seated. Like the nightlife in Honolulu is happening for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, and you just a day ago you were just at another convention, and it's like I feel like, is there ever a down period for you, because you're always at conventions, you're always traveling? Like, does that travel fatigue ever hit you hard?
Sure. I got back last night and I slept like the dead. I'm so glad I didn't have any early morning sessions today or anything. I was out and it was so refreshing. It's always exhausting, but in a good way, because I get to travel. The conventions bring me out. I get to meet the awesome fans and hang out with my colleagues, because we record individually in anime and video games. We're not together like the cartoon folks, which is a world I'm dying to get into still. I've done a little bit of, but I don't typically get hired for that kind of gig. And but with anime, yeah, where everyone's so busy with their own personal lives or other work that the only real time, even the talent pool here in Los Angeles is so huge, to actually have FaceTime with any of my colleagues. We usually just have to be chilling in the green room at the same exact time during an event. And then we can be like, hey, so how are the kids? How's the wife? And all that. Otherwise, everyone is, okay, back to it. Let's go back to our booths.
Wow. So it's just nonstop then.
It is pretty much nonstop. I usually may have 1 or 2 weekends a month where I have nothing. And it feels weird because I'm so used to traveling. It's like, I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to be anywhere. I could just relax. What? What is this?
Because so that just makes me think, like, because I run into this a lot with content creating, and I know other content creators and other people I know that are constantly just like, when we're just go work projects, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's a very weird feeling, because I feel like the body and our minds just are like, we got to do something. We can't just sit there. As much as I want to watch X-Men 97, I'm like, I need to be up and doing something. Like it's a weird level of anxiety, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and you said X-Men 97. That's been my favorite show I've seen this year. I became obsessed, and as a Gen Xer, I felt I was too old to watch the 90s show, but now I'm totally into it. So I watched X-Men 97, and now I'm going backwards, and now I got to watch the original series now, and I'm loving this. It's like, that's written so well. And it's like, man, I could totally see why this influenced a whole generation of fans.
And it's crazy to see how, like, they decided to just bring that back, because, you know, there have been so many different other X-Men shows, Spider-Man shows, and just Marvel shows in general. But, like, to come back and pick up right where the old one left off, and to bring, like, just such love and care and attention to detail and respect to the franchise that I feel like a lot of other adaptations may have missed. It's just great. It's great to see it.
Yeah. And I feel great for all the people, some of the OG cast that have come back to the roles, and now they're going on the cons and meeting the fandom, because back in the day when they were doing this, it wasn't as big a thing. I mean, there were cons, but I think the voiceover casts were kind of overlooked, unfortunately. And you know, during all this time, the anime cons was still going on, and voice actors were starting to come out and do appearances and everything. But now it's just like exploded on every level.
Yeah. Like, speaking of which, like, with how, you know, voice acting from when you started to now in 2024, like, how does it feel like having, I guess, more so, I'm trying to see how should I word this, like, in the sense of how, like, everyone wants to know who the voice actors are and, like, what role, and see you at conventions, like, compared to, like, when you first got into it, where it wasn't as widely known who's doing what. Like,
Right.
Is it weird now, or is it like surreal, or how would you describe it?
Well, you know, in the case of those of us that were on shows that are on Cartoon Network, and people either didn't pay attention to credits, or they ran by so fast when they were on cable and all that, and sometimes even on Netflix now, they don't necessarily have credits, so people are guessing. It's like, if the voice actor announces that they're that part, we just gonna have to, okay, you're that part. We have no proof per se, you know, that we are those quills. But yeah, it's pretty wild, and it's always so flattering and humbling and just amazing that people pay attention to that sort of thing. I know they do for watching anime in the original Japanese, you know, when they can start name dropping left and right, and it's like, wow, that's impressive. You don't even speak their language and you know who they are. That's wild. So yeah, I'm blown away by, of course, all the love people have given me through the years, through all the various franchises I've been blessed to be a part of. But it's always even extra cool. It's like icing on the cake when someone pulls out a deep cut. It's like some little obscure video game I did in 2004, or, you know, it's like, oh yeah, that was me. Sometimes, you know, I have that first world problem of having been in so many things, I can't remember all of it. And when people are asking me to put a quote of a character when I'm signing an autograph, it's like, did you have something in mind? I don't remember what I said. I don't get, you know, 9 times out of 10, I haven't actually seen the thing or played the game that I'm a part of. There's just not enough hours in the day.
And I'm would you say that, like, modern fans are starting to understand that more so than previously, or?
I think so. Plus, we go out of our way to just like, hey, full disclaimer, guys, you always will know more than we do about the things that we work on. So it's actually educational for us at panels. And when you come at us on social media going, hey, what was it like doing this and that? And how about this character arc? We're so used to getting I don't know if today's generation knows what Cliff's Notes are, but bullet points. Just like when the director says, "Okay, time is money. We don't have time to sit here and screen the episode for you to watch it. We're just going to cut to the chase. This happens, and here's what happens with your character. And let's cue up the footage and let's preview each line. And then I see the script for the first time. It's a cold read. And then I'm performing it. Sometimes I nail it in a take. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3. You got to finesse it a little bit. Sometimes they do a Franken take where they say, I like this part of this line from this take and this one over here. And then the editor will just snap them together in Pro Tools. And suddenly we'll get the performance they want. And if I'm making the director happy, great, let's move on.
Oh.
I know it sounds a little bit of assembly line and like there's not a lot of heart or passion in it. I don't mean to give that interpretation or give off that impression, rather. Mm-hmm. Everyone works hard and loves what they do. The engineers work magic. The directors work magic. They help communicate and pull the writer's intent in the story out so they can describe to the actor who are there for such a minimal amount of time to get the performance out of them. And hopefully it all comes together like a big giant puzzle and it's out there for the fans to absorb,
Fans definitely need to or if they don't already, and for those who listen or watch this and don't understand, like it's such a process. Over the weekend, I actually got to speak to a localizer for Riot Games, and she was telling me about that whole process. And I'm like, that is in depth.
Yeah, there's a reason that games in particular take so long to develop, especially if they're doing an adaptation or localization into English from another language. I mean, there's Japanese games, but there's also Chinese games, Korean games. Stuff from other countries are constantly coming down the pipeline, and it takes a while. And, even the big AAA games could take years. I worked on so many things over the course of years. Guild Wars. I worked on Starfield. Mm-hmm. I've worked on that for like 3 or 4 years. Now, not consecutively. I have a session for 4 hours. A few months later, I get another 4-hour session. And my non-playable characters, my NPCs, suddenly have a whole much more story to give to the player. Mm-hmm. And then, I got more to record. And that evolves. And lather, rinse, repeat. Working on Street Fighter, same sort of thing. When the game gets announced, chances are it probably already has started recording. And then as time goes on, that script will adapt and change, and we'll get notes. And then, of course, there's DLC, which, we're cranking out left and right for all the Dragon Ball games, and Sparking Zero, which got announced as October 11th, everybody. Pre-order now. It's like these giant projects that take months, or years to adapt and record or re-record, and then they get the animation tests done, and they're syncing it all up, and hopefully it all works, and just hundreds, if not thousands, of people working on it, depending on the scope of the game or the show, and then it comes out, and it's like, wow, and then people just absorb it, and then they're done, 22 minutes later, or they play a game and like, well, okay, now what?
Yeah, like so many different projects that you are in within this year alone. I mean, the upcoming Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero, and then you were in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and so many other titles. It's just, I don't know how you keep up with it all. Especially with your schedule, traveling and that. Like, I
get the text, the emails going, are you available at this time, this date? And I'm putting it on my calendar. And then, we're doing that. Or we have auditions with a tight turnaround. It's like, okay, this is due at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Or someone's like, same day turnaround. We need it ASAP. And I'm recording in my little walk-in closet booth, which is not even a booth. It's just a walk-in closet with some sound, some foam on the walls. And then the rest is just closet stuff. And when the pandemic hit, I'll be like, I didn't have to adapt. A lot of actors did have to like invest thousands of dollars to actually get a portable booth or treat the space that they record in. And I had to do minimal updates there, but I did want to kind of up my game equipment wise. So I've got some industry standard mics that I love and cherish. And it's like, okay, I got my tools. I'm ready to go. And then, now we're back to going back into the studio for the most part. Once in a while they'll say, do you want to do this from home? I'm like, yes, clothes are optional. If they hop on Zoom to direct me or whatever, they don't have to see me. They just have to hear me. And I'm, the digital signals going in through apps like Source Connect and things like that. So our studios are connected. They can record audio on their end. I can record a backup on my end. We're previewing footage over Zoom. And, there may be a little bit of lag, but the engineer can just like bump, stretch, compress, and play back, and we can make it happen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know I've talked to several other voice actors, and a lot of them have said the same thing as you, like not needing to adapt during the pandemic. But there have been a couple that have said, like, yeah, I had to go build out like a little closet and like just put everything up and all the soundproofing. And that's one thing I kind of wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Someone who has done DJing and just understanding audio equipment.
Yeah.
The way that technology and audio equipment has advanced from, say, 20 years ago to now is just astronomical. Like being able to curate and soundproof your room or just run some software and just clean up your audio. It's crazy. That was not a thing before.
And again, huge shout out to the unsung heroes in the voiceover world and post-production world, the audio engineers. They're able to help educate a lot of us that were just kind of naive. It's like, well, I can kind of make my way around Audacity or something and just record a basic audition. But, we had to go to a little bit of a crash course in learning about recording techniques and the ins and outs of things. Like Pro Tools is like too daunting for me. I use Adobe Audition. I feel like it's got all the bells and whistles. I hate the fact that I can't just buy the program outright. Adobe makes you subscribe, but hey, it's a tax write-off, so there's that. So I've had to kind of learn some things here and there, and thank God for resources like YouTube where people can just do tutorials for everything. It's like, how can I improve my workflow? It's like, oh, that's so much easier. Wow, let me do that. I still like shortcuts. Like what are shortcuts? I just want to I'll just do the drop down menu and click on that. It's like, dude, why don't you just hit function and this? Like, because it's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot of shortcuts to remember. Yeah, I get that it makes life faster and easier, but boy, there's a lot.
Yeah. So speaking of which, might be a little bit of a controversial question, but I know this is an issue within the voice acting industry. AI and this whole thing with how people are training AI to replicate voices and all this other stuff. And it's like, have we not seen the Terminator movies?
I know that's something I didn't think of at the time. We were just worried about robots killing us all. Oh, it's worse. They're going to take our jobs. It's so much more dire. You had Hollywood come to a grinding halt with a strike last year. And, some people not getting it, not caring and all that, but it is very real. And you got to nip that in the bud. If you can put protections in place for actors or creatives of all kinds, musicians, animators, and all that, everyone's job is on the chopping block. And, we're in that wild, wild west zone where we can hopefully nip this in the bud. And all the studios that are trying to nickel and dime and cut corners and all that will understand that in the day of social media, we can raise awareness on any cause, any sort of thing. And the fans have been very supportive, saying, hey, I don't want to hear robots in my entertainment. I want to hear people. And yeah, you can technically recreate the voice, but it sounds like a robot. Because it is. It's not organic. It doesn't have the warmth and humanity, literally, pun intended, in the performance. Will it get better? Yeah, it gets scary better every few months. Chat GPT is evolving all the time. And you see things on TikTok with the AI filters and this, that, and that. I get it's fun. It's a cool tool to play around with, but people don't understand that it's like, this is the same tech that hackers and scam artists can use to call you pretending to be a relative and having you wire money to them. And then you learn after it's too late that you've been scammed out of your money and so many things. And God, yeah, it's a very real threat. I kind of don't envy people wanting to get into voiceover now because it's such an uphill battle competitive without AI.
Yeah.
You know, because it is faster and easier and cheaper now, thanks to technology. You know, you have all these great tools that have so many upsides, but they also have real repercussions and consequences if you don't think it out. So awareness is key during these times.
Yeah. Like I can say when it comes to like journalism and content creating, that's something that I frequently run into and see a lot. Is a lot of my peers they want to cut corners. Hey, I need to review this product. I need to get this article out. Hey, someone else did it. I like their style. Let me just grab it, throw it in ChatGPT, have it reworded, restructure it, and boom, here's my thing. And that became that was a big talking point a couple months ago within the content creating space, and I'm seeing it a lot, even more so now with like these faceless channels that are popping up and these faceless blogs where you're like, hey, who's the editor in chief? Who's this? Who's that? And you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's all AI run, and it's crazy where I feel like, how do you compete with that? Because you don't have the resources that the AI does. The AI can pull from anything.
That's right. All those different custom voice things that you can have voice your videos on YouTube or TikTok, and suddenly you're hearing the same 5 or 6 voices. It's all AI generated content. And, you know, everything that sounds fake, and they just leave it in where they're mispronouncing words and this, that, and the other, but it's just accepted. It's like, oh, it's AI content. It is what it is. And sadly, some people just accept it. You know, they're not saying, hey, stop this. I would rather have a real person. Well, I'm too shy to do it. Well, find another real person to voice it. Not a robot
Right.
that you can just type the script and it'll just spit it out for you. Yes, that's convenient, but think about the repercussions.
Do you think we'll be able to, I guess, as a society, be able to nip that in bud, or be able to have some type of regulations put on it? Because it seems like it's the wild, wild west.
It is the wild, wild west, and we need legal precedents. We need things we need judges to make things, and laws need to be enacted. You know, it's like, this is AI. It's not copyrightable. It's like, well, companies are not going to want to hear that. They want to be able to just, you know, do what they want. It's like, okay. And another thing that voice actors or actors or any creatives have to worry about is if they come to you offering you a job and you're wanting sort of a rider in your contract saying, hey, protections, you will compensate me. And if they turn you down, you say, well, thanks, but no thanks. And then you go on your merry way. Will they ever come back to you? Or are they just going to keep knocking on people's doors until someone just accepts their offer, no matter how dehumanizing or cheap that it is, and not understand that it's shut the door on everyone all of a sudden? And it's like, are they not going to ever hire me again because I stood my ground? They're not going to see it as standing your ground. They see you as being difficult to work with. Let's not hire him because
Yeah.
But you got to think about your principles, and then you come back and forth. It's like, well, principles don't pay the bills. I'm like, well, then what? What do you do? It's a conundrum, and there's no easy answers. But thankful again for social media so that these discussions can take place, and no matter how heated the debates can get, it needs to happen, and awareness needs to be raised so that even if AI is implemented on some level, it doesn't overtake the human element of it. You know, it's a tool. It's not meant to be a replacement. It's supposed to streamline things without hurting people's livelihoods.
Yeah. Like one of the things, like I tell some other creators that ask me like, hey, should I use AI in my content? I'm like, please put some context as to what you're going to do with that.
Yeah.
They're like, well, what would you suggest? I like, for me, when you see my short form videos go out, those are scheduled. I have the AI, put it in the schedule thing and put it out there. That's it. Or if I needed to cut up a video and put it in that format, that's it. Just because I may not have the time for it. But when you're saying you want to write your script and voice it and do all the other stuff, you've lost me when it comes to all that.
Yeah, I think you should put a disclaimer. I'm scrolling on TikTok, and some things, at least they're up front saying this is AI generated, this content. It's like, thank you for letting me know, because otherwise I would be suspicious as hell going, this is totally AI. But thank you for admitting it. And if you're thinking, well, I don't want to have to put that disclaimer, it's like, what? Are you embarrassed? Are you embarrassed that you took that sort of low road and cut people out and you're cheap? And I saw someone else, I forgot, someone maybe in the industry saying it's like using AI is basically admitting that you have no money. That's a reflection on your brand and your product. So,
yeah. And it's interesting. A lot of these social media platforms are, when you're uploading something, they ask you point blank now, is this AI generated?
Yeah.
And I've seen some creators be upset about that, but I'm like, no, you have to disclose that, because we were having the whole deep fakes. People were doing that for a long point, and it's so good that you could be very easily deceived by that. I mean, that's terrifying.
People could be convicted of crimes, revenge porn, fake porn, and people suddenly lose their job. It's like, how do you know it's not real?
Yeah, it's scary that we're in this kind of augmented reality era, like stuff that we saw in movies and TV shows and novels, and it's like, no, we're in that time frame now.
I wonder if like creators of sci-fi and speculative fiction ever kind of realize they're unintentionally writing the future.
Right.
People that are creating these AI and protocol, they've seen Terminator, they've seen all this pop culture entertainment through the years, and that's probably what planted the seed in the first place. You see an iPad in the sci-fi classic 2001: A Space Odyssey. The astronauts are eating lunch and they're watching little tablets getting the news. That's in 1968.
Yeah. Yeah.
It totally happened.
Oh man. So when it comes to, like, I know we were briefly talking about this before we started recording, but like the when it comes to voice acting, having a network and all that, like how much would you suggest to someone who wants to get into voice acting or is voice acting, wants to get more roles? How much should they be networking, and how much should they pull back to not like burn themselves out?
I think it's so important to reach out and find basically a support group of like-minded communities, voice acting Discords, voice acting Twitter groups, Facebook groups, and learn what everyone else's journey is. And there's a fine line between, being forthright and go-getting and making yourself known versus being a pain in the ass. It's like, quit nagging me. All right, I know you exist. All right, you gave me your demo. Stop emailing me every week, or don't befriend someone just because of what they can do for you. It's like people can spot and smell fake a mile away. Don't come off as desperate. Don't be desperate. Yeah, we're all creatives and we are desperate, but we need to mask that. We need to go like, come on, pull back. We know you want to work. We know you all this, that, and the other. But let these friendships and professional relationships mature organically. Don't force things. And don't just rest on your laurels going, well, I got an agent. Now, now my agent has to do all the work and hustle and find all the work for me. No, an agent's job is to get auditions. It's no one's job to book the role. It's up to fate whether what you submit is what they're looking for. And
that's the thing?
Yeah, you have to bring your A game. You got to be the best you can. So if there's a bunch of downtime between you getting hired, you need to budget your money and take some classes and make sure that you're always just up on the latest trends in commercials or games or whatnot. And again, we're in the social media age. There's so many resources of people teaching classes over Zoom and some in person. So you can't use the excuse of, I live in the middle of nowhere, I don't have classes. Well, Zoom's a thing. Skype's a thing. There's lots of VO coaches that will teach you one-on-one or small class groups of maybe a dozen people tops. And over the course of a workshop for several hours, you get to try some different things, do a little character improv workout, or learn some different things and finding out what it is you're best at. And at the same time, remembering that you are a business, you're a brand. How are you going to, if you could go back in time and take a business course, that'd be great. But here we are. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Yeah. So we got to do what we can now. Even with an agent, most of the work I book are through student studio relationships that I have fostered and over the years. And once you start working with one place or director or casting person, you get on their radar, then okay, that's kind of the wheel is now spinning. Okay, all right. Hopefully that relationship will come back and give you opportunities in the future. Meanwhile, go plant some more seeds somewhere else. Who else have I not worked with? Okay. Look online. The internet is your friend. Google is your friend. Who's the casting director at such and such studio? Write them an email once. One email. Just introduce yourself. You don't hear back. But it's like spaghetti. See what sticks. If nothing sticks, then you got to make a whole new pot of spaghetti, I guess. You just keep working at it, man. And it's tough. I was telling you before we started doing this interview that I am extremely introverted. I'm very shy. I find it difficult to reach out, and especially I have phone anxiety. I see the phone, send a text, please text. It's weird. I can't even explain it, but to put myself out there, it's like, oh God, did I say or do the wrong thing? It's so embarrassing. I mean, I'm also on the autism spectrum. I am a high functioning autistic person, what used to be called Asperger's syndrome. So it's like I sometimes I misread social cues, and so I'm juggling that in my head too. So,
I have that too.
There you go. So we are all facing our own inner demons, our own inner battles going on top of trying to foster relationships and make our businesses and our brands, blossom. And it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah. Like I have a lot of people assume that I'm just super extroverted and I can just go out and talk to anyone, do all this stuff. I'm like, you have no idea how much energy and like mental fortitude that takes. I have severe anxiety with that.
Sure.
And they're like, oh no, you're outgoing. No, I'm an introvert. I would rather stay home and just do my own thing. And I'm just like you. Like if I get a phone call, I'm like, okay. Do I have to answer? Can I just let it go to voicemail and you text me after?
Yeah, I'll get a lot of voicemails and I'll just text the person back. Sorry, I missed your call. And then I'll answer their question via text.
Yeah.
And I can, you can somewhat use the excuse because it's legit going, hey, times are really busy right now. Let's schedule something because you just have to. You look back to your younger days when everyone could just be spontaneous. It's like, what are you doing? I don't know. Let's go to the movies. Okay. I tend to go to movies and concerts all by myself because I know I might have a friend or two that might want to see the same thing or go to the same band, but I don't want to wait till it's like, okay, well, I got to save my paycheck. I don't have money. Can we get our tickets next week? I'm like, nah, I just want to do this. I want to go online. I'm going to reserve my tickets, pick out my seats for my, for the theater screening and go enjoy it. I have a great time. Yeah. Who's your date for the movies? Me. I'm cheap. Sometimes I don't buy any concessions.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, looking at you and after meeting you, I would never have assumed that.
I'm also an actor. Now, I don't think my energy is fake because I do genuinely love what I do. I love that I get to interact with fans and go to different conventions and see new places. That energy is real. It's just exhausting. So at the end of the day, we're closing down, and some of the younger people, it's like, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat somewhere. I'm like, I'm there in spirit, man. I got to go crash. I'm just going to Postmate something to the hotel and just like hop into bed. That's my idea of a good, I mean, I'm 55 on the 14th of June. So, but there's people in their 30s going, I'm too tired to go out. It's like, are we all suffering from long COVID? Is that what's going on now? We're all too tired.
I think it is. Like, I definitely feel like energy levels have dropped since COVID, and then the desire to want to deal with any type of social situation.
Yeah. People don't know how to socialize now. You go to a theater, people are playing on their phones. It's like, where'd the etiquette go? What?
Oh man. So since I think it just hit a year now, right? Street Fighter 6 has been out for a year, had the 1 year anniversary.
Oh my god, it's already a year.
It's crazy. But like when you get roles and like they say like whether it's anime or a cartoon or a video game or even a movie, and like it's played or it's put out there and people hear the voice and people know it's you, but like in that position, you're not allowed to say anything until something's officially announced.
It was brutal when Street Fighter 4, they showed trailers at, online, of course, but also at E3 when that was still a thing.
Yeah.
I go to LA Convention Center and it's on these gigantic monitors and people are coming out. It's like, that sounds like you. Like, weird, huh? It's like, I can't talk about it. I'm sitting on this news for a year. We're recording it and we signed the non-disclosure agreements. We can't talk about it unless we're given permission or it's out. Yeah. So we sit on that. And even when there's sequels, I went round and round with the head of the studio. It's like, but I'm established as this role. It's like, you still can't talk about it. Still can't talk about it. Like, you can't acknowledge, no comment. No comment. Like, okay. I love my job, so I'm going to absolutely be professional and do the right thing and just mum's the word.
Yeah. Those NDAs are, for people who may not understand the importance of that is crucial.
And for people who just kind of blab and let it go to get that quick dopamine fix, comes up and bites you in the butt because suddenly you get blacklisted, you don't get hired again, you get replaced. It's happened before. Yeah. And so people really got to just check their ego going, it's like, is it really worth it to get in trouble with the studio? They could legally fine you. You read the fine print in a lot of these contracts saying, we could fine you for leaking this information. And I understand why they put that out. They have a marketing team. They want to attack it from a certain protocol, and going to the talent pool isn't usually the way they go about it. Maybe for some indie games, but the big marketing folks with Capcom or studios of that size, there's always a game plan, a big corporate approach to things, and that just has to be respected.
So I was shocked that the trailer for Bison, I believe it was PlayStation Taiwan, had launched. They published it, I want to say 24 or 30 some hours before it was supposed to go live.
Oops.
And so that happened and that went up. And then I think it was the Summer Game Fest thing in LA. Like, the trailer was supposed to come out 2 days later, but they accidentally put it out. And then after it was up for an hour, I know, right? After it was up for an hour, they took it down. And then out of nowhere, Capcom they published it. And I feel like that was a lot. That was a lot of texts and calls and emails
and angry board meetings, and someone probably lost their job.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a whoop. Yeah, that was a whoopsie, but that was a very costly whoopsie.
A costly whoopsie. The dumpster fire meme with like everything is fine.
With so 2024 has definitely been a very interesting year with a lot of things like we were talking about the AI and everything that's going on with that, but also, you know, this year we did lose Akira Toriyama-san, and
Yeah.
that's it's one of those things where it's like, you know, someone either you grew up with or you've acknowledged for so long, you always feel like they're gonna be there,
Yeah.
and then something happens, and it's like it's very hard hitting. Like, I've never met Akira Toriyama-san.
No, me neither.
Nothing, but like the impact of that man on generations of people.
Yeah.
It's,
absolutely. I would not have a job. My career certainly wouldn't have started with that. It was such an iconic, you know, franchise and creation, and something that's just affected people of all ages, all sizes, all political affiliations, genders, every walk of life has been affected by his creations, and it's wild. You know, I heard that he was very, very private, and I'm pretty sure that he never really toured the States. I mean, I think he came to the US in 2001 when Shonen Jump first launched its English version. And I believe Chris Sabat might have met him, maybe Sean Schimmel, but I never did. Sonny Strait never did. A lot of the other cast members never had a chance to thank him in person.
Mhm.
It's like, oh my gosh, wow, what you did was so amazing to so many people. So yeah, I feel so grateful, and I always have, but it hits even harder now. You know, when you lose the creator of something, it's like, wow, all these ideas spawned out of that person.
and it's just the fact that the world came together to just celebrate, you know, his legacy.
Dude, cartels in South America had a ceasefire for 12 hours.
Seriously, like it's I forgot what I think it may have been Geek the 101 who said this, because I think he got to meet him once before, and he said that, you know, Toriyama-san probably had no idea how much his work impacted so many people the world over, because he was so private. And that's wild to know that you've impacted the world.
Probably another introvert,
right?
You know, maybe he had social anxiety. Maybe there was, you know, it's like, yeah, I just like sticking to my inner circle or my family, or just staying at home.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure if you can actually even say this, but for the upcoming game, did they have you go back in the booth to record anything, or?
Oh yeah. Even though technically, I have recorded on anime from home, and I've done One Piece before that way, and some pickups, you know, when you have to re-record a line or something. But actually, I live very close to the LA studio that they use for the Dragon Ball game, so it's not a big deal. It's not like I have to sit in traffic or anything. I could literally 5 minutes down the road and I'm there. So that's super convenient. Yeah, I'd go in, and Damon Mills, who's Frieza, you know, he's directed me through all of this, and it's been a blast. Awesome. You know, obviously we can't talk to DLC or what's the game mechanics, this, that, and the other. You know, it's like, we're not privy to that, and maybe that's for the best, because maybe some people would be tempted to leak that info out. It's like, I just see my script. That is literally it. Or maybe a cut scene that's not even fully animated yet. There's all these interesting things. That's why it's fun that, you know, a lot of anime also now with the simul dubs are coming out in English so much closer to the Japanese, that by the time we're recording those things on such a tight turnaround, the final lip flaps aren't even done yet. Sometimes we just have to guess and hope it fits. You know, 'cause one and done, it's out there. But yeah, I knew when they said, yeah, we got a tight turnaround on this because they're going to want to crank this game out, hopefully before year's end. And then here we go, October 11th. Like, sweet. So I pre-ordered. Everyone else should too.
Yes.
I'm terrible at all the Tenkaichi games, but hopefully I could be a little better at this one because it does look
amazing. So speaking of that, but like the fact that you are the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter and Gohan and Dragon Ball,
yeah,
you know, Aizen and Bleach, like you've had so many prominent, iconic roles. Do you ever have moments where you're like, damn, I did that. That's fucking cool.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I pinched myself. I didn't, you know, I felt like I was always destined to do voiceover as a career. It just felt right. But I had no idea. I thought maybe we'd ride the wave of Dragon Ball in the early 2000s and it would just kind of fizzle out just because that's what happens. You know, something's popular until it isn't. And you move on to the next big thing. But with such tentpole franchises like that, working in Naruto, working in Bleach, and seeing new generations of fans that either grew up on that or they're introducing to siblings or parents now or showing their kids these shows. It's like, this is what I grew up on. Like, wow. I'm seeing more and more families go to conventions. It used to be mostly teenage girls in the early 2000s, but they all grew up. Everyone got married, and now pop culture society decided it's cool to be a nerd. So, you know, you see people embracing that, wearing your freak flag proudly, and again, yeah, it's great seeing families come out and cosplay, and it's a wonderful world.
and that's what's really like wild to see how, you know, I guess we could just call it nerd culture has now become mainstream. It's the norm. And it's like for a lot of younger people who may have been born in like the late 90s or in sometime within the 2000s, they may not understand what it was like being like, I grew up a comic book nerd. And I remember that was not, you know, that was not something that people would be openly confident to even say that hey, I like comic books. I read DC, I read Marvel, I read the indie comics. Like I was into Spawn, or, you know, I like cartoons. Like it's wild to see that it's just such a norm.
Yeah, you grow up and people say, "Oh, cartoons are for kids." It's like, well, what, is Family Guy for kids? It's for family. Hentai, is that for kids? You know, they know it's a medium. Anime and animation are just another way to tell a story. So yeah, and if people, it was so, I guess, hypocritical when like jocks would make fun of people for liking anime, but yet they'll put on war paint and act like idiots at football games or you know whatnot. It's like everyone is nerdy about something. It's okay. Your grandmother was nerdy about her little teapot collection. You know, there's endless examples of people being nerdy, aka passionate about something that they enjoy. How is that a bad thing?
Speaking of which, are you still podcasting?
I put that on hiatus because I have that first world problem of being too busy. So I want to come back to it because I do enjoy doing it, but it takes a long time. It would take me an average of 6 hours to edit my little 15-minute podcast because I'm such a particular and perfectionist about it's a scripted podcast. So I'm playing myself, but I'm also voicing my own original characters in them and having them overlap. So it sounds like there's more than one person in the studio and pretending it's on a spaceship. So adding in sound effects and music cues and using music apps to create music stingers and all this stuff. Drop it in little clips from movies and TV shows or whatever. Yeah, it's a lot, but, I mean, I guess it's the part of me that also wanted to do radio as a grown up. And I was a broadcast DJ in Dallas from 1996 to 2005. Sorry. Yeah. I was on the air on various formats. So that part of me that just wanted to entertain, I wanted to kind of use some of my production skills to, it's like, hey, podcasts are a thing now. And of course, the most popular ones are the celebrity ones, but you know, they're not going to stay on their side of the schoolyard. But it's great. It's just like on-demand talk radio.
Yeah.
It's not like you could listen to AM or FM back in the day and hear like, I want to tune into this show, specifically discussing pop culture, comic books, anime, games. And now you could be anywhere on the planet, just have an internet connection, and boom, here's a talk show about anything.
That's the part that's just so surreal to me when I think about podcasting and just its correlation to radio, and how before, not everyone had a podcast, but now like everybody, all someone needs is literally a phone. And there you go. There's all these apps to record right there, and they will host it and they will publish it. And that's something, I forgot who I was talking to recently about that, but I was saying like, it's so much easier now. The entry level is easier, but the barrier to be successful and to stand out is harder.
Yeah.
Because there's too many people in it.
But, there are companies and everything that you can do drag and drop to create a, it'll do all the heavy lifting, I guess, to produce something, but it's still on you to somehow market it. And it's like, if just the right person hears it. But it's great that people are able to do that, because 40, 50 years ago, podcasts weren't a thing. Yeah. And today's generation doesn't even know what the pod in podcast refers to. It's just because all that on-demand talk show stuff first showed up on iPods. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's some people through the years that wishes it was called something else because iPods are a thing of the past now. But it's a name. It sticks. Kind of like we all call X Twitter, even though it's called X. It's Twitter, damn it.
Speaking of which, like when it comes to social media, like I'm not sure if you feel this same way, or maybe you're similar to Coleman, who is like, when I talk to Coleman's like, I filter everything out. He's like, if I don't want to deal with it, I'm not going to see it. But for me, I don't like, and maybe this is because of my introvertedness, I don't really like having to go on social media. But I understand I have to, as a creator, as a brand, I have to go on there. I have to put stuff out there. But
sure.
I don't like doing it, and I don't find it fun anymore, because I feel like there's a point where you put stuff out there, people are like, hey, it's cool, whatever, I like that, or they'd be like, it's trash, but it wasn't a lot of that. But now it just seems like negativity and just hate is just the thing for a lot of people. And the fact that X, or we're gonna call it X, but it's Twitter. It's the fact that Twitter, like it monetizes that, and even YouTube, like these platforms monetize and promote.
Yeah, the algorithm is manipulating you. There's so much manipulation going on now. And now that, we're trying to destigmatize mental health. Hey, everybody, go get therapy. It's a good thing. It is truly good. It'll help you deconstruct what maybe you are doing on social media, what you see is going on social media with trolls, with people seeking validation. It's like, I'm going to strip on OnlyFans and all that. Why? Because I make money. Yeah, but why do you feel that's the only value you bring to the table?
Yeah.
What I have issues. It's like, well, why don't you talk to someone about that?
Yes.
Work through your trauma. Everyone has trauma. It's not a contest, but everyone has their own battles that they're fighting. And if you can meet the right therapist, and they're going to ask the right questions. It's not their job to solve you, to fix you. A good therapist is going to ask the right questions to help you work through things on your own, to become the best person you can be. So, and you're going to be able to reap the benefits around you with relationships, whether they're friendships, work relationships, interpersonal romantic relationships, whatever it is. This roll off is going to be a positive thing, so there's no downside. But it costs money. Yeah, everything costs money. Save your money. Don't go out to eat or don't go party for a little bit. Save a little bit. There's low cost or even no cost. If you look on NAMI.org, you can find and type in your zip code. You can find low cost or no cost counselors.
Yeah,
there is literally no excuse to not. But you have to want it. You can't force someone to seek therapy if they don't want to fix themselves. And hey, my ex is a narcissist. It's like, are they ever going to be a better person? That's up to them. The only thing we can control in life is ourselves.
Yeah. I can definitely speak to that. I've had a therapist for 16 years now, and I've never missed a session. And, full disclosure as to why I have a therapist, about 15 and a half years ago, my first daughter passed away. And that was the first ever experience I had with death.
Okay.
And I couldn't go to my family because they were like, oh, mental health, that's not a real thing. And depression, all that. And it was more of a shaming thing for my family and from those around me. And so I put myself in therapy because I'm like, I need to talk to someone. Yes. I need to figure this out. Yeah. And I need to figure out what to do with this grief and this anger and the hurt. And, it does wonders, but you have to be willing. You have to be willing to spend the money. And you also have to be willing to open up and have, like, if you get a good therapist or counselor or whoever, they can help you open up. They can help you see things that you don't. It could be right in front of you and you probably can't see it. So,
and it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be pleasant because you are, think of it as an infection that you got to scrape it out. You can't just put a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound. We all try to, and our older generation of families and relatives and all that, we just don't talk about that. It's like, you should talk about it,
Yeah.
We're on this spinning globe for a limited amount of time. So why should you let it eat you up with negativity or holding grudges or not knowing what to do with your feelings? Well, guess what? There are people that are professionally trained to be listeners and can help you navigate that crazy tangled web that we all have. It's out there. And I've had different therapists through the years. The first one you meet may not be the right fit for you. You keep trying new ones until you do find one that works with you, that you feel comfortable opening up to. And they're not just sitting there going, okay, time's up. That's not a good therapist. Yeah. Got to go through the weeding process. It's basically like you're the employer and they're going on a job interview. You have to basically find like, why should I vent to you? But boy, if you take those steps and you want this bad enough and you implement what they ask of you, you follow through, then you're going to be able to see how different and amazing your life can be. And I used to be a blame person. Well, this happened because so-and-so did this. Like, now you got to learn how to take accountability and responsibility for things. Got to stop blaming everyone for bad things that happen to you. Yeah, you can't, your biology and your genetics are what they are. So yeah, but I mean, a lot of external things, it depends on your choices, how you react to things. But blaming, that doesn't hurt anyone except yourself ultimately in the end.
Yeah. That was a very hard lesson for me to learn because in my family, I've never seen an example of accountability, not for my mother, not for my father, none of my siblings. And it's always somebody else's fault. And so I would say my first 2 to 3 years of therapy was working on that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you did this, own it. Yeah. That didn't work out well for you.
And the typical response is people will, you go to them with a concern and they'll go, okay, I did that, but you, it's like,
Yeah.
don't deflect.
Yeah.
We'll talk about but me in another conversation. I'm coming to you with a concern about something you did or said. Let's stick to that. Don't deflect. Don't change the subject. Don't make excuses. We're having a discussion about this behavior.
Yeah. So with that being said, I know we went a little over the time
That's okay. This is important. Hopefully every viewer or listener to this podcast will hopefully walk away from this not only having been entertained, but will take this part of the discussion particularly seriously. And if it does, write an email or a comment below and let the host know that, hey, I decided to seek out counseling because you guys had a discussion. So that's a win-win too.
So with that being said, I guess one of the last questions I have for you is if anyone wanted to get into voice acting now, what would you suggest?
Okay, well, it's definitely not about just being a fan and doing impressions and all that. Everyone you're doing an impression of, those roles are cast. So what good does it do? Now, voice matching, which is basically doing an impression, is a super niche sort of thing that tends to happen here in LA because movies and TVs, they end up having to dub over parts of the thing because on-set recording is, choppers flying over or cell phones going off. They can't really use the on-set audio, but they will record on-set audio kind of just as a reference. The actors often have to come back and dub over their performances. And when they can't, they'll get a person who can sound like them to do that. But again, hyper niche sort of thing. So are there people that made a career out of it? Probably, but not many, not most. So you got to decide what your goals are in voiceover. Yeah, the technology exists and you can live anywhere and technically be able to sustain a business model working in voiceover. But to do the cool stuff, the fun stuff, video games, anime, cartoons, I think you still really need to be where the work is. At least establish those working relationships before you talk about living long distance again and all that. Take acting classes. Let's emphasize acting, not voices. There are the people that do a million voices. To be a successful voice actor, you can make a living with just your own voice. You can become the name or the voice of a brand, like selling cars or, not literally a car salesman, but like a commercial, like the voice of a brand, Flo from Progressive. You could basically be a radio or TV version of that, like someone that's voicing all the things. It really is about honing your skills. It doesn't come fast or cheap or easy. You do got a network, but start Googling. A lot of voiceover people teach. I don't, but there's not enough time. But a lot of other actors, directors, writers, producers, they're all teaching their knowledge, everything they've learned and garnered through years of working in the industry. And if you're willing to make an investment in the craft, you can take the classes and learn different aspects of the industry. So focus on that first. Build your foundation of acting. Don't worry about investing in all this equipment and making a demo. That's not the first part of things. Eventually, when it feels right, your different voice coaches will hear how you progressed and they'll say, all right, I think you're ready to record a demo. Again, a huge investment. It is not cheap. You can sit there and record a demo at home. Yeah, that's fine practice, but I wouldn't send that out to casting people, talent agents, and whatnot yet, because you don't know what the best of all what you have to offer as an actor is. That's why you need objectivity. You need outside people who've worked in the business to have an ear for that and help you finesse and everything to get to that point to where then you can take your foundation of acting and now let's showcase that in a demo. And after the demo is done, then you can start okay, who do I email? Who do I drop this to? And now, tons of people on indie production, especially, do casting calls over Twitter. They'll reach out saying, hey, send me your demos. I'm casting a so-and-so. And it's like, wow, I didn't have that when I started. The internet was kind of new back then. So, but you don't want to just start, sending auditions in or asking to audition if you haven't even taken an acting class. It's great that you're interested, but that's not enough. You got to find out if you're really, really, really kind of meant to do this. And I would encourage anybody who's interested in it to try rather than wondering what if, because boy, wouldn't that suck to find out somehow through the magic of the universe. It's like, you would have made a great, voice actor instead of someone who has a day job that they don't like, surrounded by people you don't like, and barely making ends meet. I mean, to get to the point where you make a living doing something you love, that is the perfect life-work balance. That should be the end goal. It's not about, I want to be a rock star and go to cons and have everyone worship me. No, I want to get rich. No, that shouldn't be the goal. If it is, you got to go to therapy. Okay, go to therapy. Working this stuff out, because that's not what your end goal should be. So that's my long rant on that. And again, and you've probably heard it before, this website, iwannabeavoiceactor.com.
Yeah.
That will help explain and fill in the gaps of what I've been saying to you about suggesting. But iwannabeavoiceactor.com.
I know when I got to talk to Chris Sabat briefly at KawaiiCon, he brought that up too, because he's like, oh, you have a great voice. You could be like, here, go check out that website. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then one of the things he brought up, he's like, did you know that I think it's the guy who does Steve Bloom.
Yeah.
I don't know why that blanked on me. But apparently he's out here in Hawaii. And I had no clue. I was like, oh.
Bloomvox, yeah.
Yeah.
The Bloomvox community, they have a great supportive Facebook group and, of course, classes. You do it over Zoom or Skype or however he has it set up, and people can learn the craft from a master, the great Steve Bloom.
So, yeah. Anything you want to plug before we go?
Let's see. Well, I stream randomly on TikTok because my schedule's all over the place. So if you follow me, it's just my name, Kyle Hebert, VO. Put that at the end. KYLEHEBERT, as you hopefully see on the screen here. Kyle Hebert, VO on TikTok. I'm kind of obsessed with wanting to do a DJ stream on there. I see other people just playing music they like. So it's like, I want to do that too. So I'm going to do a hybrid AMA stream just here and there randomly. So follow my account and hopefully smash that subscribe and like button and follow, and you'll be able to do that. And of course, follow me at Kyle Hebert on Twitter. I will not call it X. And Instagram. I'll be plugging. I'll have links in the bio every time I have an appearance coming up. As of this recording, I'll be next at Fan Expo Boston. Nice. And after that, I'll be at Anime Expo. So, yeah.
All right. And with that being said, people, I'll have links to everything in the description for the podcast. If you're listening to it on Spotify, which is the sponsor of this podcast, you can find it in the description, or if you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, or I think it's Google Podcasts now, whatever they renamed it to, because they're renamed. But you can find it in the description, whatever podcasting platform you're listening to the show on. And if you're watching it on YouTube, you can find it in the description as well as the first pinned comment on the video. And with that being said, I want to thank you, Kyle, so much for taking time out of your day to do this. It's such an honor. Absolutely love having you on the show. It was an honor getting to meet you in person when you came out here. And, can't wait till you're out here again. Or next time I'm in LA, which I think might be the end of the year. I'll come see you.
That'd be awesome, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk all things geeky and sometimes the heavy, hard-hitting stuff too. It's all important.
Yes. And I definitely appreciate you being willing to speak about, therapy and the importance of it and mental health, because a lot more people need to realize there's nothing wrong with seeking, therapy or counseling. We all need someone to talk to be able to open up to and be our authentic self. So
yeah,
thank you.
If the people always want you to go to the gym and take care of your muscles and everything, well, guess what? Your brain's a muscle too. Work that out.
Yeah, definitely. And with that being said, people, we are signing out. We hope you have an aloha, blessed rest of your day, and we will see you on the next one. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast or any of the other episodes that we've done so far, if you've enjoyed any of the conversations I've had with the guests that I've had on the show, or just general topics that you guys have thrown at me or that I've researched and we've just talked about on the show, then do me a solid. If you're listening on any of the major podcasting outlets, make sure you leave a comment, leave a rating or a review, because it greatly helps out the show. If you're watching the show on YouTube, which airs every single week, then make sure you sub to the channel, youtube.com/@Mekel Kasanova, or just youtube.com/Mekel Kasanova, or even do us an even bigger solid by liking the video and sharing it with someone you think would find some enjoyment out of it. And all that being said, I hope you guys continue to enjoy this podcast and the content we put out here, because hey, we do it with a passion and we do it for you. So with that being said, I catch you guys on the next one. Stay safe, be blessed, and I'll see you around. Peace.